Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. So today I want to kind of tell you guys what to do after winning lane, or how to decide kind of how to play the game after the lane phase in general. A lot of people kind of try to play their champion the same way every game, whether that's roaming a bunch and playing around their teammates in jungle, or whether that's always trying to win lane and kill every lane. And this is a big problem with a lot of people in mid lane, and really in any lane. In this type of lane matchup you're going to see, we're going to be into a Yone. He's not going to play the lane super well, and we're going to get pretty good advantages. Like, we're going to already poke him out here well, and we're going to continue to poke him and get a really big lead. And because of that, we're eventually going to have a solo kill opportunity. So I am spoiling it already, but that's because the point of the video is not really, entertainment. It's more to explain to you guys why I do what I do. And so because of the fact that I'm going to win this lane and I'm going to get a kill relatively early and I have a lot of poke and pressure, I'm going to play more for lane phase. I'm going to play around trying to kill this guy. I'm going to play around trying to beat him in lane. And this is where you see him make the dumb mistake where he takes a turret shot, and so then we end up getting the kill. And so when these types of things happen where you poke someone out, they make a mistake, you get a kill, or you get a really big lead early, in these types of games you now have two options. You can either choose to play around your lane advantage and try to really, push that lane advantage, or you can play to use that lane advantage to start to roam a bunch. The way you're going to decide this is basically understanding your champion's strengths. So for example, here, my recall got me mana boots, and so now I'm in a really strong spot to fight him. And if I tried to roam a bunch after this, Yone would probably just beat me even in a skirmish or a team fight around a scuttle crab or something like that, because Yone is just better at fighting early game than an Orianna. And because of that, I'm going to keep the lane in a pretty good frozen spot for the most part. I'm going to mostly focus on poking him out, and I'm going to make him really struggle to walk up for the last hits, because I have the range advantage, and overall my champion's stronger in this type of lane phase. So because my champion's more of a laning dominant champion who's more focused on poking out their laner and gaining elite that way, I'm going to play in this way. But let's say that the Yone was being really passive and my wave was in a bad spot, like close to his tower, and I really had nothing I could overall do to punish him. Well, if that was the case, then I would just push the lane and I would start roaming. So if you're able to get your lane in this type of spot and you have an advantage, you can play for solo kills, you can play for lane leads and this type of thing. But if the wave is not in such a good spot, you instead play to crash the wave, and then you roam after that. Generally speaking, you want to decide usually by, I would say, level 3, sort of how you want to play the lane. And it might change based on other factors that come up, like if you get ganked or if there's a really easy kill or whatever. But most of the time, by level 3, you should know either I want to continue to get a lane lead by poking him out, by, playing around, farming minions properly, by just, denying minions from him, all this stuff, or I want to push the wave, I want to start roaming with my jungle, I want to make plays now that I'm level 5, it's like one or the other. And again, for me, because of my champion, because of the fact that Yone is a champion who wants to get out of lane phase, and I'm a champion who wants to be more in the lane, I try to force him to fight me really hard. As you can kind of see, I'm able to win these trades. I'm able to continue to force him to not recall properly. And so I'm able to have a big gold lead. Like, he hasn't even recalled until just now. So I was way, way stronger than him up until this point, even if we were even gold, which we weren't. Obviously, I'm ahead. But, like, even if we were hypothetically even gold, the fact that he hadn't recalled means that I'd be at a really advantageous spot. And then I go and I get my sweet tooth gold, and I go right back to lane. And so you can kind of see this constant shift into the lane phase, because that's just where I know I can get a bigger advantage based on what's been going on in the game. Even when he tries to all-in me here, I'm able to exhaust him and then get a nice ultimate and kill. And obviously this guy's playing very bad. And so the thing you guys will probably tell me is like, well, nobody's going to int this hard into me. Well, the first thing is, this guy is at least master. I don't actually know the exact rank, but he's at the very least a master player, which is probably higher or as high as some of the people you play. So trust me, like, they will do these dumb things sometimes. But most of the time, my laners don't do something that's dumb and don't give me this many free kills. In those types of situations, that's when I don't play for the kills in the lane lead. It's like, I'm not going to just solo kill everyone. I don't need to solo kill everyone to win a game. My champion especially doesn't even care about getting solo kills. But if I do get solo kills because they do something dumb, which is going to happen, all of you are going to have games where your opponents do dumb things, you need to understand that you need to maybe shift how you're normally going to play. Like, you might normally be a roaming champion, but you can get a really big lead. Basically, the point is, if you feel like you can't get a lead in lane for whatever reason, whatever the reason is, don't spend too much time in the lane. Just play around, poking the enemy, maybe pushing the wave quickly, and then roaming and whatever. And if you feel like you have a solo kill angle because you understand your champion well, because hopefully you've watched my other tips and you understand, how your champion works, you're really, proficient on them, you've limit tested properly, all these things, then you're going to be able to get these good kills in lane. You're going to be able to outplay your lane opponent, and you're going to get to a game like this where you end up being 2-0 early game. And instead of being 2-0 early game but not having that much gold, you're going to have a bunch of gold because you played properly for your lane phase and pushed your own lead. And then because of that, I'm able to come to these fights really strong. But I'm also not, going to just immediately rotate. I'm going to push this wave before, because I don't really want, that wave to just stay in the mid lane. And because we dominated the Yone so hard, he's not very strong anyway, so he doesn't even do much in that fight. And our team ends up doing a good job in the fight there, as you can see. And it's pretty straightforward. We're able to get this dragon. We're just overall in a really good spot, and I will skip forward a little bit towards the next point in the game that's actually interesting. Just so you guys don't have to watch me, just recall and do nothing really meaningful. But then it's important to understand, once you do have this lead, once you are in this type of spot where you then win a fight or something like that, that you recall after you take all of the gold you can. So I took a turret plate that I could, I took a wave that I could, and then I recalled. That way I've gotten as much gold as possible from the fact that we killed them and gained the pressure. And then I recalled to spend my gold instead of fighting with my gold not spent. And so here I'm trying to see maybe I can actually help with a Gnar. I honestly should have just stayed on my lane. But it's fine. It's not really a big deal. And we're way stronger than this Yone. So at this point, grab the fruit, get a bunch of poke onto him. And yeah, we're just able to dominate him there. I'm thinking about flashing, but then I don't end up flashing. And so we ended up killing him here. I didn't even remember this. So I guess I spoiled it for you guys. But yeah, shout out to the Yone for being an idiot. Like, I appreciate him for that. He flashed into me. I should have just W'd. I didn't even need ult, but that was something. And so yeah, don't get me wrong, like, a lot of my videos I'm often talking about coming back, or I'm showing you guys the harder games. This game I'm showing you an easier game, right? Where the enemy entered into me. But I think it's really important to understand how to play when you do have a lane lead, like how to play once you get that lead, which oftentimes will come from your lane opponent doing something dumb like this. And these are just as important games to understand how to win as the games that are like unwinnable, because a lot of people will throw these types of games, make some dumb calls, some dumb plays, and then end up losing a game that should have just been basically unlosable. And so again, it's just about this consistency, because once you have this big lead, you don't need to do anything fancy anymore. You can continue to just play for your wave, for your lane. Don't worry about your teammates making an int or two. Push the wave, and then now I'm at this point, right? I've taken their turret. I have such a big lead that now I can push and then roam. I no longer have to play to solo kill Yone, because now Yone is not worth very much gold. He's like 0 and 3, so I wouldn't get much gold. So now after I push, I'll now roam, right? And so it's the understanding the shift where you're still going to be roaming at some point. It's just later in the game. And so here now we get this nice roam off after pushing the wave. Very convenient. We get the ultimate onto Caitlyn, and Nami ends up dying as well. And we get to take the entire turret. So notice again, after my roam works out, I take as much as I can, which is, in this case, the turret with my team, so that I'm able to get that additional gold. And then I recall to spend my gold. Every time, it's the same sequence. It's make sure my lane's pushed. Remember, I pushed my lane before I rotated. Once my lane's pushed, I can go somewhere else, make a play somewhere else. If the play works out, I'll take gold from wherever I can around the map before my enemy respawns. And then I'll recall to spend that gold so I'm stronger for the next fight. It's a very consistent sequence that occurs, and you're going to have this happen numerous times in your games. And it doesn't matter if you're jungle, if you're mid, you're top, you're ADC, whatever. The same thing applies. If you're a jungler, obviously it means that you're going to get camps instead of waves oftentimes, but even junglers can sometimes get waves and turrets, especially after 7.5 minutes. And it's the same for ADC, it's the same for anyone, right? If you get these certain lane leads, these certain kind of, more, basically lane leads. After you get those lane leads, you do the same thing that I'm doing here. You're making sure your lanes are pushed out, then you go to other parts of the map instead of the other way around. And so here I wanted to get that top wave, but I knew that the mid wave would come and I might lose my turret, so I decided I'll play for protecting my turret first, and then I can go towards top side after if needed to, again, get as much gold as possible. But because my team ends up winning the fight pretty well, we just go for the mid turret instead. So that's always nice as well. And yeah, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I kind of slept only like 4 or 5 hours, so I'm kind of tired. So my brain might not work very well as I am saying these words out loud, but it's all right. My brain doesn't work well most of the time. And so again, we just end up going back, getting ourselves some gold, not really worrying about our team making a random dumb mistake. That's the other really important thing when you have these types of leads. It's not the end of the world if your team throws one time or makes a dumb mistake. You have that luxury of throwing a little bit, But what could be bad is if everyone on your team dies, right? Like if your teammates make a dumb mistake and then you go and you int or you follow them after they make the dumb call. The only time you're really going to want to follow on your teammates making these sort of over aggressive calls would be when, say, you're like there's a Baron or an Elder or something, and where if your team dies, they're just going to get the Elder for free. These are the times where maybe you will follow your team and try to make the 50-50 play that they're making that they shouldn't be making. But if they're just fighting over a random, dragon that doesn't matter, or oftentimes fighting over nothing just for fun, like, you don't need to follow that. If you see an angle to fight, you can fight because you're going to be stronger, right? So if you've pushed your wave already and everything like that, then it's fine to fight. Also got the nice, ultimate onto the Braum there. And then shout out to Yone for just missing every ultimate as well. Appreciate him for that. But yeah, it's just basically like not over, following your team on dumb plays, essentially. It's kind of the gist of playing in the later parts of the game when your team is ahead. And then here we get a nice flash. Unfortunately, I missed my my second ability there, but it's all right. We're still 6-0 and 5. But this is where some of the kind of mistakes come from myself and our team, and we should have been more aware of our waves kind of being pushed. And so you can see what happens when, for example, my Baron laner doesn't push this wave. The enemy are able to sneak this inhib because we're focused too much on fighting and chasing and getting these kills on these people who don't really matter. So like I chased the Yone who isn't really that useful and killed him. Doesn't really matter that I killed Yone because the enemy got the turret, they got the wave, they got way more out of it. And so when you're in this lead, you don't want to be doing stuff like that I did, where I chase a dumb kill that I shouldn't really chase. You'd rather, again, get that wave push first, and then after that, you go towards a fight or something like that. So you can see, even in my games, I don't play perfect, I make these mistakes, and sometimes it leads to the possibility of a throw. I mean, obviously, we're still very ahead, still looking good, but these types of things are more than possible to happen. Shout out to Yone again for being an idiot. Appreciate you, homie. He's 0 and 8 running it down. And that's something as well I want to acknowledge. Like, if you guys watch my stream, I would definitely say it's probably more common that I get the person running it down than the enemy. But, like, everyone has games where their opponents run it down. Like, this 0 and 8 Yone is losing his team the game and being dumb. And you can see here, again, we didn't focus on mid. So, once again, we kind of don't properly focus the waves. We overchase fights. So you can see the same thing twice. We're able to catch them in the long run, though, so it's kind of fine. But, like, yeah, like, basically, it's important to acknowledge that sometimes your opponents are bad and you got the luckier team. Like, your team played better than the enemy, or the enemy was inting, or, like, this type of thing, because unfortunately, people only really think about the times where their teammates sucked, and, like, I'm, guilty of that too, so I understand. But it's important to kind of acknowledge, that sometimes your opponents are just inting, and your enemy Yone is 0 and 9. So that is, yeah, this is kind of just what I basically wanted to talk about, is like how to play with a lead and all that type of thing. And just generally, it's about playing around your type of strength. So if you have that lane lead, you play around the lane. If you think that you can push that lead further, or if your champion's really good in lane, if your champion just wants to use the fact that you have a lead to spread it to others, then you can just push and roam after you get that early lead. And then once you have that lead, not following teammates on dumb calls, focusing on the waves, focusing on taking as much as you can from the fact that you got those kills after the fights work out. These are pretty much the most important things to understand for playing with the lane lead. So I just wanted to kind of make this video, show you guys that. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.